Good morning. Welcome to Chalice Unitarian Universalist Congregation. We are a community of diverse beliefs and experiences, nurturing the liberal religious spirit and united by our desire to grow in love and in service. Whoever you are, whomever you love, whatever your life's journey, you are welcome here. Whether you gather with us every Sunday, once or twice a year, or are here with us this morning for the first time, we are glad you are here. I'm Reverend Sharon Wiley, Chalice's minister. Our worship musician this morning is Justin Gray. Welcome to this online worship service. Welcome to those of you watching live Sunday morning using Zoom, and welcome to those of you who are watching the recording of this service later on Chalice's YouTube channel. For those of us live using Zoom, please notice on your menu that you have a button that says CC Live Transcript. This is Zoom's closed captioning service, and you can click on it to hide subtitle or show subtitle, depending on if you want to see it or don't want to see it. You're in control of that. Also on your menu is the chat button. For those of you who like to use the chat during the service, which you're welcome to do, please be sure that when you post, you use that little blue menu, that drop-down menu, to select panelists and attendees, not just panelists. If you only post to panelists, it only comes to me, and I've got a lot going on and won't see it during the service. And we do want to use the chat in order for everyone to be able to share with each other. So let's all give ourselves a big hug of hello and welcome. If you're sharing space with other people, give them a hug if that's welcome to them. I want to especially welcome those of you who are newcomers at Chalice. Towards the end of the service, I'll post a link in the chat box for adding your name to our email list. Our weekly email is the best way to get information about our many online groups and activities we offer using Zoom. And once you're on that email list, you'll receive information about our gathering for newcomers. And if you haven't received that notice recently, please don't worry, you haven't missed something. It's just been a very full month, but it's coming up and you'll get an email about that. So let's take a breath together. We begin our service by acknowledging that wherever each of us is watching this morning, if we are in what is now called the United States, then we are on land that has been taken from indigenous peoples. Our congregational home in what is now called Escondido is on land that is part of the traditional territories of the 12 bands of the Kumeyaay Nation and the 7 bands of the Payamkushum, also called the Luiseno. Land that is sacred to us now was taken from people for whom that land was and still is sacred. In recognition that we are the beneficiaries of a history of colonization and attempted genocide, we have made financial donations in the past year to 2 local indigenous-led organizations, California Indian Legal Services and the Kumeyaay Digueño Land Conservancy. It is our hope at Chalice to find our way to right relationship with local tribes. Now we light our chalice, the symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith. The flaming chalice was first used during World War II by the Unitarian Service Committee as a symbol of life-saving refuge for people fleeing persecution in Europe. May our chalice flame burn brightly, that all who are seeking may find us. At the end of one week, the beginning of the next, enter into this time together with your broken heart, your open heart, your whole heart. Enter into this time together and set aside who you think you should be in favor of who you are. Let this be a time you bring who you are, your whole self, your broken self, your open self. Lay down your burden now. Drink from the well now. Rest your weary soul now. Here with we kindred spirits, fellow travelers, we who are also open and broken and whole. At the end of one week, the beginning of the next, let us worship together. You're invited to join in singing.
Morning has broken like the first morning. Blackbird has spoken like the first bird. Praise for the singing, praise for the morning, praise for them springing fresh from the word. Sweet the rain's new fall, sunlit from heaven, like the first dew fall on the first grass. Praise for the sweetness of the wet garden, sprung in completeness where his feet pass. Mine is the sunlight, mine is the morning, born of the one light, Eden saw flame. Praise with elation, praise every morning, God's recreation of the new
Our Sunday worship is the shared spiritual practice of our community, and we tend to the congregation during this time by honoring our joys and sorrows. If you would like to share a joy or sorrow with the congregation this morning, now is the time for sharing in the chat box. These won't be spoken out loud and part of our recording. If you would like to send me a confidential note about your joy or sorrow, or to make a prayer request, you can email me and I'll put my email in the chat box.
got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river in my soul. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river in my soul. I've got joy like a fountain. I've got joy like a fountain. I've got joy like a fountain in my soul. I've got joy like a fountain. I've got joy like a fountain. I've got joy like a fountain in my soul. I've got love like an ocean. I've got love like an ocean. I've got love like an ocean in my soul. I've got love like an ocean. I've got love like an ocean. I've got love like an ocean in my soul. I've got pain like an arrow. I've got pain like an arrow. I've got pain like an arrow in my soul. I've got pain like an arrow. I've got pain like an arrow. I've got pain like an arrow in my soul. I've got tears like the raindrops. I've got tears like the raindrops. I've got tears like the raindrops in my soul. I've got tears like the raindrops. I've got tears like the raindrops. I've got tears like the raindrops in my soul. I've got strength like a mountain. I've got strength like a mountain. I've got strength like a mountain in my soul. I've got strength like a mountain. I've got strength like a mountain. I've got strength like a mountain in my soul.
Once two friends were walking down the sidewalk on a busy street during rush hour. There was all sorts of noise in the city, car horns honking, feet shuffling, people talking. And amid all the noise, one of the friends turned to the other and said, "I hear a cricket." "No way," her friend responded. "How could you hear a cricket with all of this noise?" "You must be imagining it. Besides, I've never seen a cricket in the city." "No, really, I do hear a cricket. I'll show you." She stopped for a moment, then led her friend across the street to a big cement planter with a tree in it. Pushing back the leaves, she found a little brown cricket. "That's amazing," said her friend. "You must have superhuman hearing. What's your secret?" "No, my hearing is just the same as yours. There's no secret," the first woman replied. "Watch, I'll show you." She reached into her pocket, pulled out some loose change, and threw it on the sidewalk. Amid all of the noise of the city, everyone within 30 feet turned their head to see where the sound of the money was coming from. "See," she said, "it's all a matter of what you are listening for."
I'm preaching a series this spring on spiritual practices. Even before the pandemic, cultivating a daily spiritual practice was a good idea, and it is an even better idea now. We have lived through a traumatic experience, and we will be processing it for months to come. A regular spiritual practice will help you make the transition out of pandemic life. Trauma specialist Resma Menachem recommends 20 to 40 minutes of spiritual practice daily, just as part of basic self-care. Today is the 5th sermon in this series. You can find my earlier sermons on mindfulness, meditation, processing your emotions, and spiritual uplift on Chalice's YouTube channel. Today, I want to talk about the spiritual practice of spiritual experience. This is a little tricky because on the one hand, we could call all the spiritual practices spiritual experiences. Prayer, meditation, journaling, reading inspirational writing, all of these are meant to be spiritual experiences. But I'm using the term spiritual experience to particularly refer to experiences that are rich in metaphor and require physical movement. So, for example, worship is a spiritual experience. The worship hour offers story, song, food for thought, generosity practice. Worship has traditionally required leaving your home and traveling somewhere else. And it's only in the past year that we've learned how to offer and receive this experience in this online way. Now the physical movement is turning on the computer with the intention of attending worship and sharing our greetings and hugs with each other in the chat. I know some of you light your own chalices at home, and I hope you sing along with the hymns when you're invited. These are all the pieces that make worship more than just sitting and watching something on the computer like a television show. We can create similar spiritual experiences for ourselves in our homes, creating home altars with photos and other mementos, lighting candles and incense, singing and chanting. Memorial Day is tomorrow, a time to honor those who have died in the performance of their military duties while serving in the United States Armed Forces. It is a traditional practice to visit cemeteries on Memorial Day to honor your friends and family who died in service. Visiting a cemetery, visiting your deceased loved ones, is a spiritual experience. It can be hard to put into words what it means to us to visit with our beloved dead. Some of you have talked with me about the mystery of the experience, sometimes wondering why it feels important or meaningful to visit cemeteries and graves when you believe that death is an ending, as many Unitarian Universalists do. What I mean when I share that is people have asked me, I don't know why this feels important to me, but I go. So it's not that they're trying to understand why other people do it, trying to understand why it's meaningful to them. So I encourage you not to get bogged down in trying to analyze why an experience feels spiritual and meaningful to you. We don't need to put everything into words. Experience is about letting our senses be engaged and to let ourselves feel what we're feeling. It doesn't need to all make sense. What makes an experience spiritual and not just something enjoyable is that the experience brings us into greater awareness of our interconnectedness, our interdependence, our oneness, our sense of being connected to something greater than just ourselves. That can happen with experiences that help us feel our interconnectedness with each other now, and experiences that are traditional, that help connect us with ancestors and others from previous generations. Those can also be spiritual, helping us feel that connection with those who have come before and those who will come after. So I didn't want to just talk about spiritual experience this morning. I want to offer you some spiritual experiences. In just a moment, you'll be invited to experience in our online way a short labyrinth walk. I know you might be doing other things while listening to the worship, but I hope you'll give the labyrinth walk your full attention to let yourself have that experience here online together. And then later in the service, after the offering, we have 2 musical pieces with imagery for you to experience. For most of us, spiritual experience won't be part of a daily spiritual practice, but I hope you will seek out and cultivate spiritual experiences to supplement your daily spiritual practice. These can be particularly meaningful if you're at a place or time in your life where you're feeling stuck or unclear about how to move forward. Inviting these experiences in can help open new doors and new ways of thinking. May it be so.
Good morning, Chalice. It's great to be with you this morning. I'm the Reverend Lucy Bunch, and this is the labyrinth of my congregation, the UU Society of Sacramento. It was built in 2013 based on a medieval pattern that you can find in Chartres Cathedral in France. Labyrinths have actually been around for probably more than 5,000 years and are represented in all religious and spiritual traditions. The labyrinth is basically a walking meditation. However, its twists and turns can twist and turn you in wonderful ways that allow you to open your mind and open your spirit. It's very important that you understand that a labyrinth is not a maze. Sometimes those words are used interchangeably, but a maze, of course, is a puzzle you have to figure out. The labyrinth, it's not difficult to find your way at all. You shouldn't get lost or get confused. There's nothing about the path. You simply walk down the path and follow it to the center and then back out again. So if you get lost or confused as you're walking the labyrinth, it's something that you bring to the labyrinth. And that's a really important thing to understand, because everything that comes up for you in the labyrinth is usually a metaphor for something in your own life. The story I like to tell about my first labyrinth walk, it was at Grace Cathedral in San Francisco, and it was so crowded that they had to wait for somebody to leave before they could let somebody in. And I was contemplating this labyrinth walk, and I was so worried that if I had to step off the path to let somebody pass, that I would get lost and I'd never find my way into the center. My other fear was that when I got to the center, as I looked at it, felt like it was chock full of people. I felt that there wouldn't be any room for me when I got there. Of course, those are metaphors for things that were going on in my own life, and I did find my way to the center, and it was an amazing experience. So make the labyrinth your own. Every time you walk it, it's a different path and a different experience. And I hope that this can become a spiritual practice for you that enriches you and fulfills you, and you have many opportunities for labyrinth walks in your life. Blessed be.
of old, never dreamed by ancient sages, howsoever free and bold. Sons and daughters shall inherit wondrous arts to us unknown, when the dawn of peace its splendor over all the world has thrown. They shall rule with winged freedom, worlds of health and human good, worlds of commerce, worlds of science, all made one and understood. They shall know a world transfigured, which our eyes but dimly see. They shall make its towns and woodlands beautiful from sea to sea. For a spirit then shall move them, we but vaguely apprehend, aims magnificent and holy, making joy and labor friend. Then shall bloom in song and fragrance, harmony of thought and deed, fruits of peace and love and justice, where today we plant the seed.
The Sunday offering is an expression of the generosity that makes our congregational life possible. Lao Tzu teaches in the Tao Te Ching, the master has no possessions. The more he does for others, the happier he is. The more she gives to others, the wealthier she is. Please text your donation to Chalice. If you haven't texted a donation before, know that once you text the amount, you'll get a reply with a link to follow to enter your credit card information. And if you've entered this information previously when you've donated, you won't need to enter it again. If your Sunday donation is part of your pledge payment, please be sure to indicate the word pledge after the dollar amount. And also know that you can make a text donation anytime. The phone number will be on screen in a moment, and I'll also put it in the chat box. Please give generously. Please join in dedicating our offering with words of affirmation. As Unitarian Universalists, we gather to affirm and promote justice, equity, and compassion in human relations.
Once I dreamt that I beheld a great council of all creation, called together in order that the wisdom of the Spirit of life might be spoken and heard.
the elders came to the sacred circle of being and said, "In all that we do, let the future be considered unto the seventh generation, that we may leave no wound upon the earth." The far-off mountains echoed, "Patience, patience, patience."
The grandmothers came to the sacred circle of being and said, "Let our bodies be held in reverence, for within them is wisdom, and from them the holy mystery of birth." The sheltering trees murmured, "Strength, strength, strength."
The grandfathers came to the sacred circle of being and said, "People must live in truth and kindness with one another, sharing their many gifts, that we may dwell long days together in peace." The animals called out, "Respect, respect, respect."
The ancestors came to the sacred circle of being and said, "The wheel of change turns in seasons and tides, in evening and dawn, and even in death. Let us honor the Spirit in what we give and what we release." The flowing rivers said, "Let go, let go, let go."
The little ones came to the sacred circle of being and said, "Behold the wonder of all creation, beauty and abundance. The heart is a drum, and our feet are for dancing. The stars of the sky sing, joy, joy, joy."
Perhaps it was at the dawn of the world, that great gathering. Perhaps it continues to this very day. In the wind and thunder, the voices still sound for those who will hear. Patience, strength, respect, let go, joy, joy, joy.
saints at the river that flows by the throne of God. Soon we'll reach the shining river, soon our pilgrimage will cease, soon our happy hearts will quiver with the melody of peace. Yes, we'll gather at the river, the beautiful river. Gather with the saints at the river that flows by the throne of God.
So if you are like me and found those experiences to be meditative or even helping you feel trance-like, be aware of having been had that experience. Be gentle with yourself coming out of it. It can help to have something to eat to help ground the body after a spiritual experience. So traditionally after worship, there's coffee and snacks. That's a good practice. Our closing words come from Reverend Cynthia Landrum. We leave this gathered community, but we don't leave our connection, our concerns, our care for each other. Our service to each other, to the world, and to our faith continues. Until we are together again, friends, be strong, be well, be true, be loving. You're invited to close our time together by singing the well, and afterwards, everyone is invited to coffee hour.